All right, here with one of my favorite people I've ever met in the wrestling biz,
Yeah.
surrounded by pets and birds
I
and
know.
animals and everything else.
My dog is starting to drink water right here too. Ozzy, come here, Bubba. I'm so sorry. Oh
It's
my
okay.
god, chaos. I apologize, but yeah.
I've got five of them running around, barking and making noise and everything as well. So we get it. We get it.
Yeah.
So
Okay, good,
here
good, good.
here with Saraya, and lots to talk about. And I
Yeah.
think obviously amazing book, Saraya Hell in Boots,
Thank
which I
you.
actually read in one day.
Oh, you did in one day?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh hell yeah.
I
Hell yeah.
stormtrooper yesterday. So,
Oh
I
hell
mean,
yeah.
we've known each other for 1,000 years, so no
Yeah.
need for small talk. So, what made you decide to write this book right here and right now?
I actually decided, when me and WWE parted ways a few years ago, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with my life? What's going to happen now? I was really freaked out a little bit. But then my manager, Meech, suggested, he was like, well, you've always wanted to write a book. Why don't you start doing that? And I was like, okay, yeah, it could fill some time. I didn't realize how quick another wrestling company would come around, with like
Hmm.
AEW. So I was like, okay, like I'm going to throw all my energy into this book. And it took over 2 years. You would understand, Chris. It
Sure.
takes, oh my gosh, it takes such a long time. And it's the most exhausting experience. It's the most tedious experience. But like, and I had to rewrite the whole thing too, because I had a ghostwriter. And
Okay.
bless her heart, she was so wonderful. I love her so much, but she's a tad older than me, right? And so she made me sound like I was out of the cast of Annie, and then she was starting fights with people I wasn't supposed to be having fights with. I'm like, what is going on? You're like making up a telenovela in my book right now. I was like, I don't want that. I don't want any drama like that. I'm just trying to tell my truth here. And so I had to rewrite the whole thing. Oh, this thing? Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
no big
that.
deal. But yeah, it took about 2 years, and it was just rewriting the whole thing. And you actually met my friend Taylor, I believe,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, and she actually helped me rewrite the whole thing. She was doing all the typing for me because I'm useless on a computer, so she
Mhm.
just did it all, which is bless her heart. We spent hours and hours and hours rewriting this whole thing, and I'm so happy with it. But you know what's crazy is that you don't think people are gonna like it. You're like, people are
Right.
gonna
Right.
think
Right.
this
Right.
is shit.
Right.
No one's gonna give a fuck about my story or anything like that. But they did. They really loved it. So I'm happy. I'm happy.
Yeah. When you start writing it and then you rewrite it and you rewrite it, and then you're kind of obsessed with should it be and or should it be but, and you just get I hate this thing and none of it's
Yeah,
good.
exactly.
Right.
And then you forget everything about your life too. Like, so you're just like,
Hmm.
what happened? Like, and then I asked just a bunch of people just so like you can get the fine details completely correct. And
Hmm.
so anyone that was involved in any of the situations that I was like in throughout my life, I would get them on a Zoom call and be like, okay, like let's go through
Right.
this, like make sure it's like perfect. So that part was very tedious for other people too, because I'm just like, okay, but like I remember it this way, so so I felt bad, but I'm so happy that I got it done. Bloody hell.
So you ended up writing this by yourself then,
Mm-hmm.
basically.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
amazing because I was reading it and of course looking to see if you had any, assistants or a co-writer or a collaborator, but very well written stuff. You're actually a really good writer.
Thank you. This. Oh my gosh, yeah. When Bernadette done, she's a sweetheart. Again, I love
Yeah.
her. The ghostwriter they had. It was well written, but it wasn't my voice. And I was like, oh no, people are gonna read right through this. And
Hmm.
so that's why I had to like just redo it from scratch. And I felt bad because as well, she's already like contracted, so her name still has to be on the book. Of course, she put a lot of energy into like helping me with the first draft. But then
Yeah.
ultimately I rewrote the whole thing. But yeah, I'm very proud of myself for doing that because I've never wrote a book in my life. I'm like,
But
what
that's
the
the
hell?
thing. I was the same way. I had to wait until I left WWE the first time because they were always asking me if I wanted to write a book, but I didn't really like. I mean, not like it, but the way they do things obviously is a certain way, and I wanted my book to be so much broader than that. And obviously, it's the same for yours.
Yeah, 100%. And again, I love WWE, but there is parts of them where, they will take hold of the book and kind of switch
Hmm.
things around and stuff like that. And I didn't want that either. That's why I wanted to wait until I was outside of WWE. And that's another thing with AEW that was really wonderful is I was like, listen, I'm writing this book. right? You can't get a percentage of it, but but I am writing this book, and I'll talk kindly of you guys because ultimately they were really great to me. So,
Right.
but yeah, like it was just yeah, I'm on the same page as you.
So when you decided to write it, I mean, obviously there is some deep, dark things in this book that you went through, and you were very candid with a lot. I mean, with all of it, the things that
Yes.
I didn't even really know from your
Yeah.
teenage years and all those sorts of things. So you obviously decided to just go bare bones with the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm not one to really open up about my life at all. I mean, people on the internet are open about my life without my
Yeah,
my permission.
I
But
agree. Me
but
too.
no, yeah, exactly. You're just like you don't even know me. How are you
Yeah.
trying to tell my story here? So when I said I was gonna write a book, I was gonna tell absolutely 100% of everything. I was like, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna go balls to the wall. Like I'm just gonna tell it all. And there's still some stories that I've kept out of there,
Hmm.
maybe for like a second book, maybe,
Right.
like a relationship. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but,
Yeah.
maybe. But no, I wanted to keep this book, as personal as possible. Like kind of like I'm putting my diary out there to the world. So
Hmm.
I'm like, yeah, if I'm gonna do it, I might as well go crazy with it and just tell everything. And there's a lot of things that I mean, even the beginning, with my childhood, like even my mom and dad, I haven't spoken to them about it at all. Like my brother did. Zach spoke to them about it, and I did get a text from my mom, which was in the book, and it just, she said, "I believe you," and blah blah blah. And that was all I needed. And then I'm like, I don't need to speak about it anymore. I'm so weird with talking about trauma. You know,
Yeah.
like I'm not very good with like telling people my lows. Again, the internet does that for me.
But I mean, I just spoke to someone about this the other day about a book that they had written. When you get a chance to write a book, you mentioned the trauma that's hard to talk about. Was it easier for you to write about it and get it down on the printed page?
Yeah, definitely. It was definitely easier doing it that way. I think, yeah, just talking about it. I can talk about it now, but it took me years and years and years to really figure that out. I went through a
Hmm.
lot of therapy and trying to be open. And I think it's the generation that I got brought up into, where my dad was always just like, don't complain, get up, brush yourself off, and continue. I never had time to really bitch and complain about things or speak about or do therapy. I started doing that in my 30s, which is crazy. But yeah, it definitely is a lot better putting it down to paper because then I don't feel like there's an audience in front of me. It's just me and my
Hmm.
thoughts. And so yeah, it was much better doing it that way. And then I was so nervous. Once it was released, I started sweating so bad. I was like, oh my God, like people are gonna know me now. Like I hate that, but at the same time, I love it.
All right, right now the headlines are chock full of data breaches and rollbacks on privacy protections, making us all vulnerable. But here's the deal, you can do something about it. That's where Delete Me comes in. They make it easy, quick, and safe to remove your personal data from the internet. As someone with a very public online presence, I care a lot about privacy. I've seen firsthand how fast your info can end up on these sketchy data broker sites after a breach. Trust me, I know. It's like, boom, your name, address, phone number, even your social security digits out there for anyone to find. That's why I use Delete Me. Their privacy pros do the heavy lifting, scrubbing your data from hundreds of broker websites. And they don't just do it once, they keep monitoring and keep removing. You even get personalized privacy reports that show exactly what they found and deleted. It's seriously impressive. So take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me. And right now, Talk is Jericho listeners get 20% off. Just text Jericho to 64,000. That's Jericho, Jericho, to 64000. Message and data rates may apply. But also too, like you have it in the book and it's there and it lives and breathes, but you never really have to think about it now because you have it
Mhm.
and you can kind of put it on this shelf
Yeah.
and leave it there.
Exactly. Like I it's out there now. Again, I will do another one, but I think like letting it chill and settle for a little bit until you have to
Mhm.
mentally prepare yourself to write a book. I didn't realize
Sure.
that until the first go around. But yeah, now it's again on the shelf, just chilling for now. And and yeah, like I'll do interviews like this, especially with like someone like you know, and it's easy
Mhm.
to talk to you and it's easy to talk about this, you know. So I'll do that kind of stuff, but it is nice to just leave it on the shelf now. I'm like, okay, I'm done. Okay, let's go on to the next thing.
Not to get too deep into it, but there's a story about some molestation that happened to you and to your brother Zach. Did you discuss it with him? Because this is his life that's being divulged now as well.
Yeah, so you know, me and Zach didn't actually talk about it with each other until I would say I was about 28, you know, so
This
it
is
was only
talking
like,
about the actual experience at all.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. We and Zach, bless his heart, he's like more emotional than I am. And so he's had a
Mhm.
really rough time in his years to get over it. And I've kind of been one to completely push it down, you know. But then I had moments where it's really affected me. And then one day Zach called me and he was completely broken down. Again, I was about 27, he was 28, I'll be 33. So it was only a few years ago, you know.
Mhm.
And he's just crying and he was like, I just need to talk about this, you know. And so we did, and like we opened up to each other, and I was it feels like it was very validating because you put it in the back of your head and you don't talk about it with anybody, so you're like, did this actually happen? Am I, you know? And then
Yeah.
we finally got it out there. And Zach, I get chills thinking about it because he's my hero, you know.
Mhm.
Like the one of the times that this guy, you know, came up to our bedroom, Zach was on the other side of the room, and he told the guy to come to his bed instead of mine
Yeah.
so I could get a break, you know?
Yeah.
And it was just, and you don't realize at that age how just heroic that is and how traumatic that is for him to kind of take that for me, you know? And so,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, I just love my brother so incredibly much for that. I mean, he's been supportive of me my whole life, up right during the sexual molestation from a guy when we're kids. We're like babies. Like it's not
Right.
as if we're like, you know, we're young kids. It's crazy. It was the 90s, you know. It's crazy. And so like to have that moment with him where we got to speak about it was, oh, it felt so good to get it off our chest and stuff. And but I said to him, I
Mhm.
was like, you know, you speak about it to mom and dad. I don't think I can do it, you know. Again, I'm one that kind of suppresses it. I'm like, I don't need to speak about it. That's all. And then obviously I get the text from my mom that said, I believe you, because she had a
Mhm.
rough go of it growing up. And I think that's one of the things that kind of affected me and Zach too, is her stepdad did the same thing to her and none of her family believed it and they all disowned
Gotcha.
her. It was awful. And
Oh,
so
wow.
I see what she went through and she went through hell and it really affected her. And so like that was, I guess that might have played a big part in why me and Zach didn't do it. But it's weird how you just don't speak about it. But it
Mhm.
happens more than you realize, you know, it happens
Sure.
so frequently and so, oh gosh, it's so often and it breaks your heart. So I'm glad I talked about it. Again, I wasn't even going to put that in the book. And then I was like, you know what? I said to myself, I was going to give 100% of me. So I'm going to talk about it. And a lot of people have wanted to speak to me about this, you know, and I'm so thankful I did it because I just don't know how many people I'm actually helping. It's insane. Like, and a lot of people have experienced it. I've had some of the wrestlers, you know, male and female, all write to me from reading this book and was just like, I went through the same thing. I'm so proud that you're speaking about it. Maybe one day I'll start speaking about it. And it just like, oh my God, it made me feel like $1 million, you know, like I'm doing something of substance for people. And it just, yeah, even
Well,
though it's
it's
rough.
and I think that's one of the reasons why I really enjoyed the book because I had some traumatic experiences that I wrote about in mine, and it's not easy because you're bearing your soul. And I know even like some people in my family were like, "Wow, you could have buzzed us that you're going to tell this story," and it's like it's kind of my story to tell, but I think that makes the book so much more riveting and it's so much more real than and then I wrestled this match and then I did this and I did that, which
Yeah,
is great, but this is the real you. And like you
yeah,
mentioned, it's going to help you and your family and other people as well, which is kind of
exactly.
the reward of you going through all of that.
Yeah, I didn't want it to be just a wrestling book, you know. Like
Yeah.
I wanted it to be like people are really getting to know the real me. And I wasn't writing this book to change anybody's mind either. Like I don't give a fuck if you hate me or not. I really don't care. This is for me, and I'm like, this is the reason I am the way that I am, you know, and this is why like man, I'm just so passionate about certain things, you know, and I'm so proud of myself because I wouldn't change a thing. I don't know if you're the same way. I would not
Mhm.
change a thing about my whole life. Even the worst trauma, I wouldn't change it because I was strong enough to get through it, and I'm now able to help a lot of people as well, you know,
Sure.
and I'm so proud of myself for that. And yeah, again, I just wouldn't change it. And people will always ask, like, why? You know, and I'm just like, because I wouldn't be me, you know? It's just like, not as if I enjoyed it, of course not, but it was just like, I just, all the mistakes that I did and all the awful things that people did to me, like, hey, I love who I am now. And I never thought, you know what's crazy? I never thought, like, I didn't realize how unhappy I was for the longest time
Mm.
until I found true happiness. And that's this year, 2025. I've been the happiest I've ever been in my life. And it's just, I didn't realize, like, I thought I was happy before, the years before that, but I never found true happiness. And it just means that going through all that stuff is teaching, I want to teach people that there is another side of it and you can be the happiest you've ever been,
Yeah.
you know? And it just, I feel like I radiate happiness now, whereas before, like, before I was kind of like a miserable little kid, you know? And I was just like, I didn't have that good. I feel like I didn't have that good energy. Maybe I did, but now I feel like I'm way more positive, and I think the book helped me do that. Honestly, I really do. Like getting it out there and being like, okay, all right,
Yeah.
fine, let me tell my story. Let's just do it, you know. And it's helped me more than I realized. Honestly.
It's a catharsis for you. Very cathartic. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, you know what? It feels good to talk about things. I haven't done it in years. I've never done it, but I was just like, wow, it feels really nice. Yeah, I'll do it
I,
again.
I love reading kind of the earlier years because you grew up for those that for the five people that don't know, you grew up obviously in a wrestling family and not, wrestling families, especially in that time frame, it seems glamorous, but it's really not. The Harts and the Jarretts and the Armstrongs, and of course the Knights. Is that
Yeah.
like you guys were part of the traveling circus to where you're traveling and doing these shows however many days a week, and if you draw, you guys have dinner, and if you don't draw, you guys have vegetables boiled or
It gives
whatever it may
me
be. But
chills to think about that, Chris.
yeah,
Honestly, it really does because it's true. Mom used to take us around the grocery store and we'd eat around the grocery store so we didn't have to pay for the food because you just didn't know if you're going to have lunch that day, you
right.
know? And you know how wrestling families can be like they eat, breathe, shit wrestling. That's it. They're not going
Mhm.
to go get a regular job. That's not how it's going to be. They're just like, you know what? I'm going to keep grinding and we're going to travel like 8 to 10 hours for like 20
Gosh, yeah,
pounds, you know? Like,
right.
that's just how it was. And again, I wouldn't change it. And then there's the other side of my family too that people might be more familiar with too. Is just like my dad is, an old school football hooligan. My brother's been most of my family have been to prison, it's like, but my family are a bunch of gypsies, dude, like
Yeah.
that's what we are. We're gypsies. And we're always loyal to a fault. So I grew up around violence, and
Hmm.
it was just like, in the book I talk about how my mom would be stitching someone up in the living room, while my dad's given legal advice because he represented himself in court. When he went to jail, but he got less time. But, but he knew the law like front to back, and there was just, and then we had like the pubs, growing up in pubs where all the gypsies would come and like there'd be fights in the parking lot. And like I see my brother smacking someone in the head with a baseball bat. And like,
Hmm.
I grew up around that and you grew up to be tough, you grew up
Hmm.
to be tough. And that kind of bleeds into when I first got to WWE, right? And it was like, I grew up around wrestling men, there wasn't a lot of women back
Right.
then either. Like apart from my mom who wrestled like a guy, and so I got my ass beat by my family constantly in the ring. And so I thought that's how you had to do it when you got to WWE. And they were just like, whoa, let's bring it back a little bit, sister. You're kicking people's asses. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. And then I never understood if someone got injured, they would go to the doctor. Whereas I got hit by a car, I got wrestled the same day. I broke
Yeah.
my
Right. Right.
wrist.
Right.
And you do these things again. I think that's like growing up around wrestling. You were probably very similar before you went to WWE, where you just like the show must go on, you know. And so when I got to WWE and people really took care of themselves, I was just like, "What's this about? What
Right.
pussies?" But in reality, you're just like, no. You have to take care of yourself. You really do. It's so important. As wrestlers, we only have so many bumps on our bump card, right? So
Right.
we have to take care of ourselves. But still, it took me a while to adjust to that too because of my upbringing.
There's a great memory that you have that I experienced when before I got into wrestling the year before I was part of the road crew, and there was a van driving through northern Manitoba with potholes and the ring, and I was on top of the ring, and every time you hit a pothole, you'd have to watch
Yeah.
hitting the roof of the van. And I was reading
Yeah.
your story about that. It's the exact same experience.
Yeah, you would be the certain smell that you have in the back of those vans too, of all like the tape, the old tape around the ropes, and like, oh my god,
Yes.
the gym mats that were covered in sweat. Oh my god. And yeah, and you would go over the bumps and you'd hit your head on the ceiling and stuff. And that was when you got the best sleep though. Have you noticed that? Like
Oh,
what's
just on top, right?
yeah. Like traveling on the back of
So
those vans.
unsafe too, right?
It's
So
so
unsafe.
so unsafe. There was no seatbelts back there. There was iron and dangerous, like sharp objects back there. And Dad's like, "All right, get in the back." And it's just, I loved it though. I look back on it and I just appreciate that so much that I got to experience that. Same with you. You
Yeah.
probably appreciate the I'm not saying people don't struggle now, but it was a real struggle
It's
back
different.
then. It's
Yeah.
different. Like we had to be thrown in the back of ring vans. We had to do stuff for free sometimes just for the experience, and we had to wrestle
Mm-hmm.
through these injuries, and silly of us to do it, but we just went through hell and back, and I don't know how it is these days because I haven't been on the indies in a minute. I would love to go on the indies and check it out, honestly, and see how it is. But we had to build and take down the ring. We had to set everything up. We were trying to nickel and shelling our merch. Like we're but in a mission, like please buy this merch so I can get some money. And it was like the most shitty merch ever. Did you ever do those really bad prints and like bad like
Yeah.
pictures and stuff like that?
You take like the letters, and I would take a picture and then take some letters from like a stencil and put them on. And I remember I cut a Cheerios box, a lightning bolt, and then put that over top and then photocopied it. So it was Chris lightning bolt Jericho. Old
I
school
love that.
Photoshop.
I love that so much. I'd be so interested to see how the indies are now, truly. Again, I don't know how it is. They might be doing the exact same thing as what we used to do, but I would love to dive back in there and see what's going on in the indie world.
It's so funny because you mentioned you're in your early 30s, yet you've been doing this since you were in your early teens. It's like you really have lived 9 lives in the wrestling business, and you're still so young.
Yeah.
Once
Oh,
again, from
thanks.
starting so young.
Yeah. You know what? I'll take that. And I people forget that we've known each other
Yeah.
since I was 17. So that's even longer. That's just like
Yeah.
16 years. That's a long time.
Yeah.
For everyone, I went to watch Fozzy play in Norwich, and I was like a huge fan, still am, of Chris, and I was like so excited. And then I got to see him afterwards, and then you remembered me. I
Yeah.
couldn't believe it. You remembered me. It was in Miami for WrestleMania. We're in catering, and you walked up to me and you said, "You made it," and I said, "Yeah, I did." And it was just, I got chills from it because I was like, I cannot believe you remembered me. Like
I
that's
do.
crazy,
That
and
was
and you were
the
so
wa- the
supportive.
the
Huh?
waterfront, right? Is that what it's
Yes,
called?
the
The waterfront.
waterfront. And oh my God, there were so many of us there, like a big crew of all these, indie wrestlers came with me. My mum came. You got to meet my mum.
I remember that. Yeah.
And you were just so gracious and awesome and just so respectful and just like never forgot it. And then once I got to see you when I made it to WWE, which wasn't long, and like
Mhm.
it was about a year maybe. Yeah, about a year and a half probably because I was 17 then, and then I got
Gosh.
there when I was nearly 19. So it was amazing. And you were so sweet and like you were so nice and you were so proud of me. And you were like, you're going to do big things. And I was like, thank you, Chris Jericho.
I
It was
remember
so
that
fun.
though.
Yeah.
You have a great story in the book around this time frame when you were talking about your image and kind of what you look like, and how at the time it was all about the Barbie dolls, and you were more of a Bratz doll, which I loved, by the
Yeah.
way. I had to go back and look for that in the book. What did she say again? Barbie doll, or Bratz doll?
Yeah.
It might even be the title of this podcast. I don't know. But
Yeah.
but talk about that, because you had two tryouts. Obviously, the second one's the most famous one, but your first one, you went in there and you were not yourself because you had tried to fit in with what you thought they wanted.
Yeah. Yeah, these tryouts. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So as you know, when I was 17, I was a little punk girl, right? You
Yeah,
saw me before.
the
I
comb
was
over.
the comb over. Oh my god, the infamous comb over. And then so embarrassing. You know what was the style back then? It was very cool.
It was, yeah.
It was. It's making a comeback. Anyway, yeah, the first tryout I got, I went there in some color. I got spray tan. I got my teeth whitened. I lightened my hair. I took all my piercings out because I had like my lip ring and my gauges and all that kind of stuff in, you know. I was a little punk rocker, you know, I was a little
Yeah.
emo. And so I took all those out. Again, my sister did the spray tan for me and the teeth whitening, and I pulled up to it, and everyone was kind of like, you know, have you ever seen like white chicks, you know, where you're like, something's off. I don't know. You know, like
Right.
that's literally how I was. Like I'm walking in, people are just like, what the heck? And there was me, and I don't know if you remember this wrestler, but she's from Liverpool. Her name was Lisa Fury,
Okay.
and she was beautiful. Oh my gosh, she had like this red, like she was a redhead, and it was naturally like very wavy. Oh my gosh, she had a body, killer body, and then there was me, right? And so like we had to do this match, and I busted her nose at tryout, and I was like, oh, that's not a good look, you know. And
Right.
then you know I got taken to TR, and it was John Laurinaitis that was the TR rep at the
Hmm.
time, and he was just like, you know, something's off, something's not right. Maybe come back in like 6 months, and we'll see where you are. But right now, like, you just don't look the part, you know. And I was just like, okay, fair enough, you know. And they didn't bring up the injury, so we're good. So I did come back, and I was like, you know what? When I come back, I'm gonna be completely myself, and if they don't like me, then fuck it. It's not meant to be, right? Like
Hmm.
this is as much as I can do. So I did. I came back all black, kept my lip ring in, kept my gauges in, my hair, got the comb over out, you know. And the guys that were running the tryout, and it was what's his name? Ty Bailey was the TR rep back then. And then it was Dustin and Jamie Noble that were running the actual tryout. But then all the wrestlers are around the ring. Do you remember those tryouts? Like
Yeah, of
all
course.
you guys were around the ring, and it was like the most intimidating experience of my life. And I was the only girl with a ring full of men. And this tryout was a little different. We had to all stand on the outside of the ring, holding the ropes, and then we tagged in and out, right? And it was just like one long match. Anyway, Jamie comes up to me, and my brother Zach is in this, and he's in the ring, and Jamie backs up into me, and he was just like, tag yourself in. And I was like, oh, I don't want to step on any toes. He was like, tag yourself in. And I was like, okay. So this big jack guy, like friggin', oh my God, like he was giant, comes backing up into the ropes, and I tag myself in. He looked like he could fucking kill me. He was so mad. And I was like, fuck it, this is my moment, bitch. You know, I step in, and me and Zach were just going off, and Jamie and Dustin wouldn't let us tag out. So we took 80% of this
Hmm.
tryout. But again, it's not because we're being selfish, it's because the
Right.
head trainers were like, stay in, we want to see you. And then Dustin's like, all right, beat your sister up, Zach, beat your sister up, you know. And he's beating the shit out of me because they wanted to see how I sold, you know. And then they were like asking us to do certain things. They gave us like a sequence to do, like they just, and everyone's just fucking like mad as hell. But you know, if someone tells you, if you have that
That's right.
opportunity, fucking take it, you know,
That's
and
right.
like you apologize later. But so we end up doing it, and then afterwards they were like, all right, everyone go get changed, you know. And Dustin wanted me to stay, and so I was like, okay. So him and Jamie helped me with a few things like that they thought I could do better, like a headlock and all that kind of stuff, and you know, just minor adjustments, which it was the coolest thing ever, you know. And then they're like, all right, go get changed. And then Ty Bailey brings me into the office, and then he was like, okay, you're it, you signed, you know. And I was like, oh, what, you know. And then my
My
brother didn't get
gosh.
signed, and it was I felt bad because I really wanted to celebrate, but also I felt bad for my brother. So my brother like went and went to locker room for a little bit. Me and my mum walked, and we were at the side of the stage, you know. And then Hunter came up to me and shook my hand and said, welcome aboard. And I was like, oh my God, he knows I'm signed, this is crazy, it feels real, you know. And it was just it was just the most magical experience. And then I got to see like women like Kelly, she had her hair in rollers, and I was like, oh my God, she's so beautiful. And then Eve Torres, and I'm like, oh my God, these ladies are so beautiful. And then I got to see Edge, you know, and everyone was so nice. Everyone was so friendly, you know. I'm just like this little scruffy emo kid, and they're all being so welcoming. And so I was like, they just you know, just all my stress they took away, all my anxiety, like everyone took away because everyone was so nice. I couldn't believe it. I don't know what I expected, but like everyone was just a sweetheart to me, and that was really wonderful until I got and I was in the training facility, and then I had to deal with some cunts. Sorry, I don't know if we could say that, but
Sure.
oh my God, oh, some of these girls back then, I swear to God. But you know, uh they ended up, not making it, and I did. So
In a lot of ways, though, when you tell that story, it's like you really kind of almost changed what a quote unquote diva is, because now you look and maybe the top girl in the division is Rhea Ripley, who
Mhm.
is total goth. And she did
Yeah,
the same thing that you did. Instead of trying to be the blondie and just went the opposite direction, you kind of
yeah.
made that okay to do that sort of a look.
Yeah, I was, because I was inspired a lot by Lita, because she
Mm,
was very alternative. It was a
right.
different kind of alternative, but
Yeah.
like I feel like I definitely helped usher in like the emo goths for us though, because
Mhm.
at the time there was no one like me. There wasn't a single person back then. I mean, you had AJ, but she was kind of like the nerdy kind of
Yeah.
kid, like and so but I was the only like pale goth chick. I had all the black makeup and like all the dark clothes and all that kind of stuff. And it was a rarity to have. I mean, you remember back then, you were there. Like
Hmm.
it was just there
Hmm.
wasn't a lot of women like me, and or any women like me,
None.
So and that's what
Yeah.
made me stand out, and that's what made me special though, and that's really what helped me like kind of with my career is completely being authentically myself, dressing the way I want to dress, and I love that WWE accepted that. Except from Vince, he wanted me to be in purple at one point, and I when I was coming up to the main roster, she's got to have purple gear, so I got the purple made, then slowly went back to black again. But yeah, like it was, I feel proud that I did that. Now when I see it, I'm so proud that there's so many women that are like me now,
Mm.
and they're killing it. Like they're doing amazing things. Like Rhea Ripley is like one of the biggest stars in WWE in general. Like she
Sure.
is
Yeah. Yeah.
like massive. You go on TikTok and like she's just exploded on there, and that's an important platform to be a
Mhm.
success on.
Yes,
And
it is.
I see her all the time. Her algorithm, like I. Probably because I watch her videos, so I think that she's smoking hot, that I get a lot more of her videos. I'm like, damn, she looks good. She looks really good. Yeah.
Let's
But
talk
yeah.
about when, I mean, you mentioned how hard it was that you got signed and your brother didn't, but then it comes time where you actually have to move to Tampa,
Mhm.
where I am right now. Talk about that, because I moved from Winnipeg to Calgary, which was hard, but that's 14 hours in the same country. You're flying, not 14 hours, but a long distance to go to a completely different country all by
Yeah.
yourself, and you're still a teenager.
Yeah, that was so growing up, I was always fiercely independent. My dad would be like, "Where are you going this weekend?" And like at 14 years old, I'm like, "I'm going to Spain. I'm going to Turkey," like because I just wanted to.
Unbelievable.
I
Yeah.
was I just wanted to wrestle. Like that was my dream. And so I was always independent in that way. But I always knew that I was coming home. And
Right.
so like actually taking that leap, and I'm so thankful for Lexi Fife. I don't know if you're familiar with her.
Yeah. She
Yeah,
lives right
Lexi.
across the street from a friend of mine that I go to his house all the time. You
Yeah,
probably
so
you probably did the customs there.
yes, so I did
Mhm.
customs. So when I was on the indies, I did Shimmer and Slamming Ladies for Lexi. And without her, I don't know what I would have done. Like it was already really hard. I came over with just like a little bag. I didn't have much stuff. I came over with I had my parents gave me £100, which was like 150 bucks, right? And that was a lot of money for
Yeah.
them to give. And then my friend, bless his heart, right? He ended up giving me £2,000, right? Which I haven't gave it to him back. I'm sorry, Steve. I know it's been a long time, but fuck.
Come on,
And
Steve's
yeah,
waiting.
oh my god. But yeah, so I end up coming with just a small amount of cash and like a little bag. And Lexi was like, "Come live with me, right? We'll figure this out." So she let me come live with her. I was there for about 2 weeks. I didn't know the stuff that you had to get in America, like you have to get the social security card,
Mm.
rent is insurance. I'm like, what the fuck? So that the bank account, like just furniture. She managed to find me like this really cheap furniture store. So I had like a couch and I got a bed and I got a dining table with like two chairs, and that was it. My money was done, right? And then I couldn't get paid until I got my social security. So I was there for 2 weeks trying to live on this money. And she's feeding me, she's taking care of me, she helped me
It's
move
amazing.
in. She got me a roommate. Like I had this guy called Jose who was like he worked at Universal Studios.
Mhm.
And he moved in with me. He was such a good guy. He's a big dorky guy. Thank God he wasn't a weirdo. But I'm like, sure, help me pay for this. And yeah, she got me. She really took care of me, and without her, like I don't know what I would have done. Because when you get signed to WWE, like yes, it might be different now, right? But they didn't give you accommodation. They didn't give you like
It's
a
insane.
pamphlet. Is the same now?
No, I said it's insane.
Oh,
Like, how
insane.
crazy is it? Like, adding on to that, signing a teenager from the
Hmm.
UK and saying, "Okay, see you in Florida in two
You're on your
weeks."
own.
That's
Yeah,
insane. Yeah.
it's definitely crazy. Like and I didn't think about it. It's more after the years go by. I'm like, that's wild. I was a kid, you know. But luckily, I had someone that was willing to take care of me. But yeah, like I didn't get like a pamphlet full of stuff, like instructions of where to
Yeah.
go, like
The rule book.
and
Yeah.
what I need. Like I didn't get any of that. And so I was just like, thank gosh that I had a buddy, and I'm just so thankful for her. She was actually there. Oh my god, I felt so stupid. And this is in the book too. So when I did my first day at FCW, I go in there and I see Steve Kern, know who he is, right? Dusty Rhodes, know who he is. Joey Mercury, know who he is. Norman Smiley, know who he is. I don't know if Terry Taylor was there, but my dumbass. So Dr. Tom was the boss at the time, which I love Dr. Tom. He's the king. I'm so grateful for him. He's amazing.
Yeah.
But I didn't recognize him. So he asked me, and the first question he asked me was like, "Do you know Dr. Tom?" And I was like, "No, I'm sorry." And he was like, "That's me." And I was like, "Oh, oh my God." I was like, "I'm so sorry. I didn't recognize you. I apologize." I felt so bad. I felt so awful. And I was like, great. And then I told Lexi as soon as I walked out the door, and she was just like, "You fucking idiot." And I was like, "I know." I'm like, I fucked up because I'm like saying everybody's names, but obviously I didn't say his name. So he was just like, "Do you know Dr. Tom? He's the boss."
I think
I
I've
was
seen
like,
him around somewhere once or
yeah.
twice.
Oh
Yeah.
my God. I felt like such an idiot and I felt so embarrassed. But then he was such a sweetheart. He really was. And I was so sad when he got fired from FCW and he got replaced by Bill DeMott.
Mm,
Because fuck that guy, but Dr. Tom
yeah.
was amazing.
He didn't even write his name in the book. He wasn't even named.
No, fuck that.
Yeah.
Like, he sucked. He sucked big
Let
time.
me ask you quickly, because I don't think I've ever discussed this thing before. We mentioned Lexi and the customs, and you talk about it in the book. Explain what a custom is.
Okay, so fans, they will write into like Slam and Lady's website and they'll say a specific thing that they want to see in this match. So say it would be me and Jesse McKay had a match, and they say, "I want them in a one piece," or "I want them to be barefoot," or "I want them to just be pulling hair the whole time." There was nothing like where we had to act sexual, but obviously, like the reason why these guys are writing in is because of whatever. But we made so much money from that. I saw money that I never saw in my life when, I'm like this 17, 18-year-old girl doing Slam and Ladies. And it's just like, and some of them are writing in, they just want a normal match. But I've been doing customs for years, because my parents did customs too,
Okay.
with my sister. But yeah, the money was just so much better in America doing it. So I'm like, okay, like I'll get my dogs out, you know, I'll let them bark at you, like easy. It was just so those are custom matches. I don't know if she's still doing it, but
I don't
I
know.
assume.
I remember like the place where I record vocals sometimes is my friend Ed's house. He lives right across the street. And sometimes I would go over there and you could hear the bumps in the garage and all that
Yeah,
sort of thing of her still doing it. That was a few years ago. But yeah, hey, like you said, there's some interesting people out there that want to see, bare
easy
feet
money.
matches. Yeah.
They'll see some of the guys too. They're like, I want Brittany Knight was my name back in the day.
Yeah.
I want Brittany Knight to wrestle this guy, right? And so I'd have to wrestle the dude. And again, it would be a normal match, like 5 minutes, and it's just like I just want to see this guy beat her ass. And you're like, all right, good. Give me thousands of dollars. Great. You know?
So you make it to NXT, and once again, there's so much to discuss, but there's a couple big moments for you. You make it to NXT and you win the title, which is a huge deal. And then you go to WrestleMania, which
Mhm.
is a great story that you tell in the book about what happens, before you've even debuted on the main
Mhm.
roster in WWE. Kind of
Yeah.
talk about that day and what happened and what went down.
Yeah. So it was it was my second WrestleMania, I believe. Yeah, it was my second WrestleMania. But I think that was the year that Undertaker lost his streak, because I remember walking out and being like, me and Bailey walked down, we are like, oh my God, we could feel the energy. Anyway, so I saw Dwayne earlier that day and his daughter Ava, right? So Simone. So she was a fan of me back then. Like she would have my name in her bio. Like she just loved me back then, right? And so he came up to me and was like, "Can you take a picture with my daughter?" I was like, "Absolutely." So we took a picture, and that was it. And then a couple of hours go by. I'm like sitting in catering with Malenko, who's one of my favorite people in the freaking world. I love that guy.
Yeah.
But oh my god, him and his scooter! I swear to gosh, I'm like, you don't need that. Get off it. So we're just I sitting and chat and watching the show, whatever, and then I get like a ping on my phone, and it was a number that I didn't recognize, and it was like, "Hey, it's DJ. I would love to speak to you at some point. Let me know when you're available." Whatever the verbiage was for that, and I was like, "Who the fuck is DJ? And why is he texting my phone?" I'm like so confused, and I'm like, "Dean, do you know someone called DJ?" And he was like, "That's Dwayne Johnson, you fucking idiot." And I'm like, "Oh my god." So I like text him, I'm like, yeah, I'm available at any point, whatever. And then like 5 minutes later, someone scoops me up and takes me to his locker room, which sometimes, perception is reality, sometimes back there. So I'm like, oh my God, people are going to think like I'm trying to, whatever, Dwayne Johnson walking into his locker room,
Yeah,
but
yeah, sure.
I'm like, he needs me for something, right? So I'm like curious, maybe it's something for his daughter again, whatever, right? And so I go in the room and then he was like, "Hey, I'm DJ." And I'm like, yeah, I know, bro. Like, I know it's you. But so he was just like, I would love to speak to you at some point. So he tells everyone to leave. So I was just like, oh my God, like this sounds serious. And so and he's got like this intimidating aura, because he's a superstar. And you're just like,
Right.
this is Dwayne Johnson, this is the fucking rock. And so he's just like, "Hey, I was just in the writer's room." Oh no, sorry. This is where he started. He said, "I was just in England filming Fast and Furious." And he was like, "I couldn't sleep, one night. And it was like 2, 3 in the morning." And he was like, "And then I stumbled across your documentary, Fighting with My Family." And he was like, "I just love it so much." He was like, "It reminds me of my family and how close you are as a family. And I was like, "Thank you. Yeah." I'm like, "I'm so happy you watched that. That's amazing." He's like, "Yeah, I want to do a movie on it." And I was like, "What?" I was like, I'm 21 years old at this point, and I'm just like, Dwayne Johnson wants to do a movie on my life. Like, this is bonkers. Like, what? And then, I just start crying. I was like, I'm so thankful. Thank you. And, at the
Mm,
time, it was just supposed to be like this indie small budget movie until like MGM and Lionsgate and everyone attached themselves to it, film for WWE. And it ended up being like a phenomenon, right? But at the time it was like, it's just small budget, don't get too crazy, like, but we're gonna do it. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then he was like, and I was just in the writers room, you're gonna debut and win the Divas Championship tomorrow. And I was like, what? And I just started crying even more. And he's like handing me these tissues, and I'm just like, oh my God. And he was like, and here's the thing, you can't say a thing, not about the movie and not about the championship. I just wanted to prepare you for your life to change, right? And I was like, okay. And I'm like blubbering and I'm trying to calm down. He gives me a hug. He's like, all right, like enjoy the rest of the show, but remember, like, just don't say a thing. And I was just like, okay. And then I walk out and Tamina's walking in. And I'm just like, oh, fuck. And we both just stare at each other. And she looks at me like, what are you doing in there? And I was just like, I'm just a really big fan of Dwayne. And she was like, okay. Like, and I love Tamina.
yeah.
But I was like, oh my God, she's going to think like I was in there. Like, you just never know. So then I woke off and I'm like trying to call my family, not answering because of the time difference and stuff like that. But I'm just like blubbering and I'm trying to hide behind the curtain. And then the next day comes along and then I don't hear a peep about this Divas Championship and this match or whatever with AJ. And I'm just like, this isn't happening. And then 10 minutes before doors, I have Finley come up to me and he was just like, you're going to be winning the Divas Championship today. I need you to come to ringside to speak to AJ. And I just start crying again. He's like, no one
Mm.
knows. You have to stop crying. No one knows. And I'm just like, okay, like, because all the years of these indies and stuff was building up to this moment. This is what I've always wanted. I wanted to be a WWE diva. And so I'm crying and I go to ringside. Finally, I'm calming down. I speak to AJ, who was so amazing. Again, Tamina, so amazing. And it was very quick because the match was quick,
Mhm.
but
Yeah,
she
yeah.
was helping me with the promo side of things big time. And she was like, all right. And I asked her what finisher she wanted. And I was going to do the submission that I have. But she was like, no, tap out. Let's do a clean 1, 2, 3. And I was like, okay, sounds good. So we end up doing the infamous page turner, which looked like a leg sweep. But I remember coming backstage afterwards, and Randy was like, "So you beat her with a leg sweep?" And I'm like, "It's not supposed to look like that," but it was whatever. I'm like, "Who gives a fuck?" But yeah, I ended up winning the Divas Championship, and that's when my life changed completely, you know?
Well, let me ask you this, because once again, you've done so much, but at the time you're only 21 years old, and we hear about this quite often, whether it's a rock band or an actor or wrestler. Do you think because you achieved so much at such a young age, that's one of the reasons why you kind of went off the deep end?
Yeah, you know, I say all the time, I think being so young, you don't know how to handle that much
Right.
fame and money too. I mean, I wasn't getting paid crazy amounts, but it was a lot of money I'd never seen before, you know?
Oh, sure.
And so I was like, I didn't know how to handle it. And I was by myself, you know, I was doing all this by myself and I didn't have like a lot of friends at that point, at least none outside of wrestling, you know, so I wasn't hanging out with anybody outside the business. And so like I didn't know how to handle it. And I'll be the first to admit that. Like I should have been fired so many times, you know?
Mm.
Like and they kept hold of me and I love them so much for that. And then WWE helped me big time with that too because you know, they got me the in-house therapist, Bob, and then got me two other therapists so I can really like get clean and they gave me the opportunity because I had two strikes against me, you know, and if I got a
Hmm.
third one, I would have been fired. And Mark Carrano said, "You have a year. You stay sober for a year, and we'll take a strike off." And not only did they give me that opportunity, and obviously I got the strike taken off, but I also had like all these therapists and psychiatrists and stuff like that, and I just appreciate them so much for everything they did for me.
I think that's a side that a lot of people don't know about WWE, because I remember you mentioned Randy Orton. He was a terror
Hmm.
when he was in his early 20s. And I remember thinking, like,
Hmm.
how is this guy not getting fired? But same thing, the company was behind him. And maybe it was part of the responsibility of, we know we signed this person at such a young age. We're going to give them every chance to get out of it. Because, like you mentioned, I mean, it seems that the company was very much behind you through all of these trials and tribulations you went through.
Oh yeah, like when the leaks came out, I was like, I'm done. I'm fired. You know, like this
Yeah.
is it's crazy. And they called me, and it was Mark Carano again that called me, and he was just saying like, it's okay. This isn't your fault. We'll try and get it taken care of. Just please be okay. You know, because at the time I was in a really rough spot. You know, and everyone knew publicly what I was going through. And then I was at the height of my drugs and alcohol addictions and stuff like that, and it was very very public. And I was in a not so great relationship, and it was just and then these tapes come out, so they were just more worried about me and that I was going to be okay. And then they wrote out the statement for me. They were like, "This is a statement you're going to write, tweet it, and then don't
Mhm.
say a thing after that." And yeah, so they just helped me so much. And again, I should have been fucking fired so many times because my people don't realize how bad I was on drugs and alcohol. I was
Sure.
really bad. I was really really bad, and they just helped me the entire time. They did. And it was just, I'm so grateful that they really did save my life, you know? They really did. And at every opportunity, Mark would call me, you know, like, whenever you're ready to come back, we're here, you know, whenever you're ready to come back. And I'm just, you know, because I also had my first neck surgery at that point too.
Hmm.
So, and I remember coming back after my first neck surgery and when I was sober, and it was the first time seeing everybody with me sober and everything that transpired in that year and a half that I was out and with the tapes and stuff like that. And I have this thing, and it still happens to me now, where I get full body shakes when I have anxiety. Like I'm like I it's not as crazy, but it happens. Like actually, I have another story of recently that happening with Renee, but I'll tell you this first. So I'm having full body shakes, and I just can't come into the arena. I'm like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I feel like everyone hates me, you know.
Mm.
And Mark came up, he came to my car, he got me out, and he like grabs me around the shoulders and he was like, "I'm gonna walk you in, right?" And so I was like, "Okay." And I'm like shaking the whole time, and he's just like, "Saraya, you have to breathe. You have to breathe. You're gonna be okay." And then once I got in there, and everyone was so nice, and then Vince came up and hugged me, you know, Hannah, Steph, and they were all just like, "We thought you were gonna die. We're just happy that you're here," you know. And they gave me a big hug, and everyone was so welcoming backstage, and everyone was just happy to see that I was alive, honestly. So
Mm.
it was just
Yeah.
a nice experience. But talking about the full body shake, sorry, I'm going all over the place, but it
It's all
happened
right.
recently. So Renee, I was just in Italy for my manager's wedding, and it's Renee's manager as
Yeah.
well,
So
and Harley. So we were all there. Anyway, I lost my wallet. My wallet went missing, and it had my green card, my driver's license. It has everything. It's still gone. I managed to get back in the country. They were like really nice about it. Thank gosh. I had like scanned it. But I lost everything. And so I was really stressing out. I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to come back to England. My dog's going through chemo right now, you know, and I'm just like, I need to get back. I need to get back. And so the whole time I had anxiety and I had the full body shakes. And I was just like this the whole time. And Renee texted me a couple of days ago. She's like, hey, I've just been thinking about you and like Italy. And I noticed that you're really shaking a lot. And she thought maybe something was happening, that I fell off the wagon or something, which is the vibe I was getting. But she was like, I'm open. Like, I don't know if you're seeing another guy and he's an asshole or something, you know, something's going on. But she was like, please talk to me, you know? And I was just like, oh babe, that's really sweet. I love you so much. And Harley too. Like she texted me and I was just like, do they think I fell off the wagon? So I had to explain to them. I was just like, listen, when I get really bad anxiety, my whole body shakes. It's just PTSD, you know? And so
Mm.
like it happens and I can't control it, but I just I'm not on drugs. I'm not in a bad relationship, you know? I'm good. So thank you so much for checking on me. It was so sweet. But yeah, it gets a little weird. Like when people see me go into it, and I'm like, I can't help it.
One of the things as we start to wind down, because there's so much to discuss, but one thing I like about the book is that you really have a very close relationship with your family, which is so important because once again, we're all insane in this business.
Yeah.
Families are insane to begin with, even to the point where you lead the book off when you're talking about the leaks that came out of some things that happened to you, and all you care about is just what your dad is going to think, and
Yeah.
you're just hoping that your dad stands behind you, and of course he does times 1,000 and makes everything better, which is what a dad should always do. But that's a really kind of cool thread that runs throughout the book, is
Yeah.
how close you guys are.
Yeah. I feel so grateful and lucky to have the family that I do. And we are very close. And you know, so close, you know, that my family pop out kids all the time. Like I have so many nieces and nephews, they breed, but my family consciously makes sure that my nieces and nephews from a baby, they know who I am. And I
Mm,
love that so much because in this business, Chris, you understand this more than anybody. You're not around your family very much and you're always traveling and you're missing out on
yeah,
birthdays, Christmases, like, you know, you're missing out on a lot of things because wrestling takes over everything and you have to make these you know, what's the word? You just have to you just
sacrifices. Yeah,
sacrifices, that's it. Yeah,
yeah.
you have to make these sacrifices and it come, you know, and luckily my family is so great and so sweet that like anytime there's a kid that gets popped out, because there's always one. I always it's crazy how many nieces and nephews I have like 16 or something like that, but they all know who I am. They know that Auntie Rhea. They'll FaceTime me. They'll be so excited to see me, even if I haven't seen them in like 2 years, you know, they
Hmm.
all know who I am. And my family do such a great job with that. And they still make me feel so included, you know, and I love them. I feel very lucky I have the family that I do. And they get a bad rep too, you know. But I'm just like, I don't give a fuck. You know, sometimes my family are rough around the edges, but they are so loyal to a fault, honestly,
Yeah.
because you know they let a lot of people in our lives and some of them don't turn out the greatest, but you know that's just my family. They try and help
Mm.
everybody, they try to save everybody.
You just finished up with AEW and you had
Mhm.
a great run there. Did you enjoy your time there? And what were the biggest differences for you between AEW and WWE, for example?
Yeah, you know, I loved AEW. You're one of the reasons that I went there, you
Mm,
know, and you, Mox, and Britt were all calling me, you know, and I was just like, yeah, like awesome. You know, when it comes to it, definitely enjoyed my time. Maybe some of the stories I wasn't the biggest fan of, but
right,
I had so much fun being in the ring with the girls that I was with, being in that company where I had so much freedom, you know, and I love that. Like I could do whatever I wanted on the outside as long as I turned up to work on time, you know, and
right.
I love that. And that open to, you know, like creative changes, which WWE is the same like that too. Like if you wanted to change or whatever. But it's just there's just a lot that AW like lets you do and gives you. Like any kind of project, they're not asking for a percentage of it, you know.
Hmm.
They're not asking for any of that. They're just like, all right, go do it. No problem. You know, and I respect them so much. And I think Tony's a great guy. You know, you can just tell that he really, really, really loves the business. You know,
Mhm.
he's a genuine wrestling fan, and he just wants the best for his company, and he's doing a great job. I mean, what other company have stayed as relevant as his? You know, that's going
Right.
against a behemoth of a company. You know, and so, and I love that there's two companies where people can go now. So it's not if you
Mhm.
get fired from one place, like there's an opportunity maybe somewhere else, depending, right? But
Right.
there's other opportunities, which I love. But yeah, I had a great time there. I love the girls. Like the girls, when I told them I left, where they got this group chat and they all sent me a video in a group being like, "We miss you, come back, we miss you." And I'm just like, man, I love that locker room so much. And every birthday that I had there, you know, there was always a cake and balloons and like gifts. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I feel so loved here. And it's like, I just had a great time. So I'm lucky that I got to make the friends that I made while in my time with AEW.
So what is next for you then, now that you're in between kind of wrestling gigs? Do you want to continue on in the business in some capacity, or are you just taking a break for now? Or
I'm definitely taking a break from wrestling. Like, I'll probably maybe come back next year, but this year I just really, really want to focus on stuff outside the business. You know, I want to get into acting, of course, but then I have my podcast, Rule
Mhm.
Breakers with Saraya, which you have to come on.
Anytime.
Yeah.
I've
We're
been
there next week,
waiting.
so if you're not busy, we're
I'm
traveling
com
with it now.
are you really? That's
Yeah,
smart. That's
yeah,
smart. Yeah, we'll we'll
yeah.
we'll do it when I'm there in person or wherever you're going to be.
Hell yeah. I'll text you after this and let you know the dates.
Okay.
But
Okay.
again, no pressure or anything, but I would love to have you on. But yeah, so I have that, you know, I got my book going on. I got a lot of signings. I wanted to
I
dedicate
saw.
this year to signings and do like a whole tour. Like my ad mat is very like Motley
I saw it. It
Crue.
looks like a tour poster for a
Yeah,
band.
yeah,
It looks
yeah.
great.
Yeah, thank you. And so like I wanted to do a bunch of signings this year and because I'm not a huge fan of like traveling as much anymore and doing signings because it's pretty tedious, you know, but
Yeah.
I just once I'm there I have so much fun with the fans, except for the fan that try to fucking kiss me.
Oh yeah, I just heard about that. Don't do that, guys. That's
Don't
stupid.
do that. Yeah, that was crazy. So you know how you do like at the cons you do the sit down booth and then you go do the photo ops, the stand up.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And he comes in and gives me this big hug where it took like the breath out of me. And I was like, whoa. And he was like, oh, sorry, sorry. And then he leans in like, and I was like, what are you doing? What the fuck are
Yeah.
you doing? And then everybody froze. And no, I'm like, is anybody gonna fucking do anything? Like, it was insane. We were just all just like, and then he gets like escorted out, but the con didn't kick him fully out. So when I went back to the table, I was about to go back to the table, he was standing there and he was
Oh
saying, but
jeez.
Saraya loves me. Saraya loves me. And I'm like, kick this
Get this
motherfucker
guy out of here.
out. Like,
Yeah.
why is he still here? But yeah, like, oh my
You know
gosh,
what the
don't
male
kiss.
equivalent of that is, Rhea? Like when, like, 'cause once again, you would never do that to a stranger. Just go up to a strange woman and try and kiss her. It's like
Yeah.
when a guy comes up to me and slaps me as hard as he can on the back. Hey, Jericho. I'm like, would you go up to a fucking stranger who's twice the size of you, by the way, and slap him on the back? No. So don't do it to me. I hate that
That's
shit.
that's
So don't do it,
so
guys.
weird. That's like why do so okay, so fans do that to the male wrestlers.
Yeah.
They just slap you really hard. Do they
Yeah.
ever try to like I feel like they also try to touch you, no? Like the
Well,
women.
yeah, but I mean, that's to me is kind of a violation of like if you wouldn't do it to a stranger,
Yeah.
then don't do it to me. Like, and then like don't try and grope
Yeah.
you or whatever it is. Like, let's be cool here,
Yeah.
guys. You know,
Don't slap me on the back. That's assault, bitch.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
they just I
So
feel like people are not aware, but it's okay. Sorry.
yeah, but whatever. So you're doing signings. You mentioned you
Yeah.
got the book and
Yeah.
so many other projects.
Yes.
Last few things for you. I'm laughing because I'm looking at your hands, which I've never noticed before. And there's a
Oh my.
great story in the book about what you decided to write on your hands when
Yeah.
you were working in WWE. Talk
Yeah.
shit, get bit.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's so stupid.
PG
Yeah.
company.
Oh
Talk
my
about that
gosh.
when you showed up for work with those, or when you had posted a picture of them, or whatever it was.
Oh my gosh, I was so embarrassed. Yeah, that was also a time when like I had a few drinks and I just like my one of my best friends, Joey, was like, we should go get tattoos. So I was like, okay. And I just opened my brand, the Saraya store. And he was like, we should get like tattoos that represent the brand. And I was like, okay. And there I had like this little pin that said talk shit, get bit. And I decided this was a great idea. And I covered it with makeup because it went viral. It went mega viral because the tattooist posted it. I'm getting them removed, by the way. I cannot have this on my hand at 33 years old. This is just, oh my God, no. So, yeah, it's just one of the many terrible decisions that I made throughout my life.
But you had to cover it with makeup too, because
Yeah, yeah,
Mark
yeah.
Carano was, yeah. Yeah.
It was a whiz with that. Yeah, I like you put the red on it because it cancels out the dark, and then like there's so much that goes into it. And then I started wearing the fingerless gloves that kind of covered it up. I think was around the same time. And then I just pulled a rookie move and I forgot to put the makeup on, and he was just like, Saraya. I was like, I know, I'm so sorry. I'm just like, why did I do that? And it's not even good font.
I know, it's just it's kind of like
It's just scratched
a
jail.
jailhouse tattoo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, I'm a hot mess. Fuck.
Last question for you: Is there a favorite story in the book that you wrote that you think people will like or that you enjoyed?
Let's see.
I'll tell you what my favorite is while you're thinking about it.
Okay.
You get a wonderful giant rocking horse from a friend that your parents end up selling for food and gas bills or whatever it is, and they replace it with a plastic little one.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I was devastated, those fuckers. And then another one, which I think is just funny, which I was actually going to call the book this at one point, is A Stripper Stole My Kitten. Yeah. So
A stripper stole your
kitten.
kitten.
Yeah, so I was my dad I talk about this in the book, but my dad had these pubs, and then he would do like illegal activities upstairs. So we'd have stripper nights, which my dad would call pizza night or something like that. And there'd be drugs, strippers, everything like that, And then I had like this little kitten, and after they left, it was gone. The kitten was gone. I was devastated. I was like, the stripper stole it. So I brought it up to my dad recently because I just went back like a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, do you remember when the kitten got stolen by that stripper? And they were like, Saraya, we have something to tell you. And I was like,
Oh
oh no, what
no.
happened? They were like, no, they just left the door open and it got run over in the parking lot. We just didn't know
Oh
how to tell you. So he told you that she stole it. I was like,
Oh my
oh,
gosh.
yeah.
That's
Devastated.
terrible.
I know. They said, I was like, both are still traumatic. You could have just said that it went to live on a farm. A
I
stripper
would have
stole it.
rather. I think it's better if you would have known that it passed away, other than you, because you even wrote in the book that you said it disappeared and I never saw it again.
Yeah, I was devastated. Yeah, just tell me it died. Fuck. Oh my
Oh my
God.
gosh. Well, listen, you did a great job in writing this book, Helen
Thank
Boots.
you.
Once again, you're a tremendous writer, and congratulations. And so good to talk to you again.
So good to talk to you too, Chris. Thanks for having me on. I love coming on here. And I love that you read
Yes.
my book. I appreciate you so much. So
Maybe one
thank
day. So
you. Yeah.
next time I'm in LA, we'll have a pizza party.
Please.
A pizza
Yeah. Well, in the rainbow, they let that happen.
That's
They
true.
do.
That's
I had
true.
a party there, and actually, no, I shouldn't spill the tea.
All right.
But
Well,
yeah.
next time. Good to
Yeah.
talk to you, and I'm looking forward to doing your show next.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I'll text you after this.
Okay.
Bye.
Cheers.
Cheers.